I didn't panic. Hey,
The mic's on.
hey.
It's 4 o'clock on Monday, May 12th, and we'll call to order this Board of Directors meeting for the Holland Board of Public Works. Janet, can we have a roll call, please?
Van Beek,
Here.
Couch,
Here.
Corbin, Lynn,
Here.
Engbers,
Here.
Lilly,
Here.
Maloof, Thompson.
Here. For the record, we have a quorum. Would the board like to take action on the agenda?
I'd like to make a proposal that we approve the agenda as it's been delivered.
Second.
Motion by Lilly, supported by Engbergs. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We have an agenda. At this time, we'll open our meeting to communications from the audience. We provide anybody from the community who'd like to address the board the opportunity to do so, requesting that you state your name and address for the record and adhere to a 5-minute limit. Any communications from the audience today? Hearing none, we'll close communications from the audience and move into our consent agenda.
All right, good afternoon. We have 5 items on the consent agenda this afternoon. Item 4A is a request to approve the minutes of the April 7 regular meeting and the April 28 study session. Item 4B is a request to approve an increase in the contract contingency with General Electric Vernova in the amount of $39,885 to account for items that were not called out to be replaced during the original contract but have been found in need of replacement as they've gotten into that work there at 48th Street. Item 4C is a request to approve a budget amendment in the amount of $20,000, and that would be into the electric distribution capital budget, and that's to allow for the installation of curb and gutter on the west end of the 49 West 3rd Street parking lot, and that's to prevent runoff from impacting the substation grounds, and it's been affecting some of the ground grid impedance levels out there, so want to divert that water from that area. Item 4D is a request to approve an increase in contingency for the contract with Prine and Newhoff in the amount of $167,450 to cover the construction phase engineering services for the chemical storage addition project at water treatment. And then 4E is a request to declare surplus the attached list of transformers that were attached to the recommendation there. And those are all transformers that are either aged out or were found to be bad.
Any questions on the consent items?
Is the curbing enough?
Yeah, it'll be curb and gutter, and so the water will be diverted into the storm
So it's
drain.
not a big flow if it's a curb with.
No, just as it's just right now it's carrying some products, off the east end or the west end of the property and getting into an area that's close enough to the ground grid of the substation to cause an issue. So, yeah,
My thought was, is it going to tie into a storm sewer or is it?
yeah, I
not?
believe that's the plan here, right?
Just to divert the water to the storm sewer instead of into the substation.
Thank you.
Any other
That we
questions?
accept the consent agenda as it's been presented.
Motion by Lilly, supported by Maloof. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda is approved.
All right, thank you. Major project update this afternoon actually includes 2 different closeout memos. I believe Brian Ritchie is handling both. So I'll let Brian step up here and walk through the first one, which is completion of a multi-year process of sanitary sewer cleaning and inspecting. And so, Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. So this is one that we initially started back in 2021. So the plan with this one was to clean and inspect the entire sanitary collection system. So obviously phasing it out. Originally, it was planned for a 5-year period. We were actually able to get it done in 4 years, the entire collection system. So we went at it pretty hard in year 1, did almost just under half of the system that year, and then kind of spaced it out a little bit more from there. So in total, almost 1 million feet of main cleaned and televised, and with that, inspected all the manholes that they could get to anyway. Some of the manholes in our system are either not accessible or abandoned that we just weren't able to get to. And with this data, we actually took, after the first year, recommendations from plumbers who did the entire project for us for recommended patch repairs, their inspection records for the manholes where we looked at doing either extensive repairs or lining. So that table kind of shows a breakdown of each year and where we actually took the budget we were approved for, the remaining costs we had available of that budget, and use those towards repairs, be it manhole lining, be it manhole repairs, or patch repairs, which is essentially just a lining inside the sewer at a certain point where there's cracking or defects going on. So this past year in FY24, we did a large amount. I think it was 130 patch repairs that we found and got to over a period of time. So we actually added a little bit more to the budget this past year for that. And then this year, we're still going through the data to see how many more we have left. But basically, it allows us the opportunity to see our system over this past 4-year stretch and where we need to focus on, whether that's sewer lining, like I said, manhole lining we've kind of been doing over the years. If you remember, this past year, we did a larger sewer main lining project, which we're still going to be finishing this next fiscal year. That was actually televised in the first year and found a lot of I&I defects. So we're happy to get that one about 2/3 of the way done now and wrapping that one up too. So, and then again, as you can see, budget for that is just kind of showing the overall from year to year what's coming out of our sewer rehab budget, specifically for this work for cleaning and televising and inspecting. So this is just a screenshot of the video of where there was a defect, and then after they put the patch repair in, what that looks like. Again, just really a lining product, the same way we would line sewer if we're doing the full stretch. And then this is a map of our system showing kind of breaking it down year by year. The first year we targeted the older, I guess, more clay mains of the system where we knew we were going to have to get to the lining more specifically. You can see the sewers A, B, and C in the green kind of out towards Lakeshore between 32nd there. We wanted to target those in that year one phase of the project, knowing that we had issues out there and where they're at. And then, as I mentioned, kind of broke it down into a little more equal parses from there and finished it out this past year on the west side of the city and into the Lakeshore there, and then a few in the industrial area south of 196 there. So yeah, just kind of gives you an overview how large our system is and you know what the plan is moving forward to really continue this process at a more or I guess I should say a less aggressive approach, really parsing it out into a 5-year cycle, which is the recommended cycle for cleaning and televising. This is a map showing where we've done manhole repairs and lining. So kind of, I think the orange shows kind of the minor repairs where it's things that our guys have actually done ourselves, whether that be just hydraulic cementing, where there's some minor cracking in manholes. Where you see the red, those are where we've actually lined, whether it's a new structure inside of the structure, which is called a monoform manhole. We've done that, as well as what we call the bag or lined manholes, which is a similar product to lining sewer that plumbers actually does as well. And then if you go down to the last map, this shows where all the patch repairs have been done over the last 4 years. Most of these in the last year, actually. So quite a few spots, but it just kind of, instead of lining the entire sewer where there's not necessarily cracking along the whole stretch of pipe, just targeting the areas where patch repairs kind of resolves that issue and gets rid of some of those defects to extend the life of the sewer. Yeah, so really overall happy with the way it turned out, and as I mentioned, you know, we have plans to put this back out in terms of a, you know, more equalized approach in terms of, you know, we still want to continue to obviously clean and televise our sewer and look at, focusing on areas maybe where we know we do have issues to go back to those spots we found in 21 and 22 and really kind of just space it out equally amongst the system to see where things are at and continue to keep an eye on it. Any questions?
Yeah. No issue with lining or patching and then coming back and lining the whole sewer unit, right?
Yeah, if we needed to go back to line the whole sewer, no. Essentially, you would just have a slightly reduced diameter at that spot, but they have tools to kind of smooth that out. With it, essentially a grinding tool that would essentially smooth that spot out, and then you would just treat it like any other lining project. Yeah.
And I don't remember, was this the product of the process that had some odor contained with it or considered, but maybe not a problem?
Sewer lining yes. The one we just did this past year, we actually opted for the option or for the product that does not have the resin that gives off the stench, and also what it does to send to the treatment plant as well. So that product was a little bit more expensive, but I think worth the cost. And
It worked out.
it did. It worked really well. Yep. And we're planning to do that again with this last phase of that project. Yep.
When was the last time it was done? Was it 5 years ago?
Cleaned and televised. So we've done it ourselves, right? We have our own batch, and they still do that where we have what we call our hot spots where they need to be cleaned a little more often. But we have done it in smaller chunks, if you will, over the last, several years, really. But not to this level where we're strategically going around our whole system to really make sure that every spot in the system is getting cleaned and televised. And that is a recommended PACP recommendation to line or to clean and televise every 5 years on average.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is definitely a more comprehensive approach, and it's paying off. A lot of work
Yeah.
going on that is paying off. We're seeing significantly decreased numbers of backings and sanitary sewer overflows as a result of that. We see that in our KPI reports. We've already had a very aggressive target for the size and age of our system, but we've done a really good job. The other thing I would say is that reducing infiltration and inflow into the system as well has a financial benefit back to us because number one, there's additional electricity that's being used to process stuff through the different lift stations on the way to the water reclamation facility, but also the flow apportionate, the flow split creates the proportional responsibility of the water reclamation plant's operation and maintenance budget responsibility as well. And so that work of targeting areas in our system that really need to be lined and to address the inflow and infiltration has a financial return to us as well, not only from a reliability of the system standpoint, but economically. And so this is a good process to do for both of those reasons.
Yeah. Thank you, Dave.
Yeah. Any other questions on that? Otherwise, Brian's going to handle the second closeout memo as well, which is a little smaller segment of project done in conjunction again with the city. So, Brian, go ahead.
Yeah. Yep. So this was actually completed end of last fall and was essentially a pretty small water main replacement project for us. Tagged along with Transportation Department, who was doing some storm sewer work, and then obviously the road improvements with that. So this replaced around 650 feet of 6-inch cast iron main with 8-inch ductile. And then there was a little bit of 12-inch in the 30th Street intersection that got replaced with that as well. There was actually only 2 services off of this main. Neither were galvanized, but got those reinstated as well. So the other, I guess, one little caveat, there was a little bit of main replacement into 32nd. We weren't planning to get into 32nd as that would be a larger project for us in that entire stretch of 32nd, but to get the storm over top, had to lower a little bit of water main with that. So, but all in all, came in at our budget, what the city transportation invoiced us for at $250,000. So just a few photos to show Maple looking 232nd, so looking south on Maple. And I think kind of right after everything was milled up. And then again, I think they're working on a little bit of storm sewer there off to the shoulder. And these last couple show the water main. So this is the 12-inch water main actually looking at the west side tie-in, like I said, at 30th Street where there was a little bit of 12-inch main. And then the other side of that, the east side of it, showing how they tie that in, the 12-inch main on that side. And then this is 32nd where they had to lower the main for the storm sewer to get over top of it. So all in all, very successful project. One thing that was kind of neat and unique is that we actually didn't need to hire an outside engineering consulting firm for this, as it was a very small portion of Maine. We actually designed and got permitted ourselves in-house and inspected it, and actually I think we even did a little bit of staking ourselves too. So kept us in our tight budget that we had for it, but got really a chunk of Maine that really needed to be replaced, and actually an area that we're going to be going back to for a larger scope in that Maplewood neighborhood where there's been several breaks as well. So kind of kicks things off for that. That's going to be happening probably in the next couple of years. Any questions?
Questions for Brian?
Thank you.
Keith?
Yeah.
I'll just say thanks again for the great partnership with the BPW on this type of work.
Yeah.
Being aware of what sometimes happens in other locations and just not only of the relining, but the partnership with transportation, it's just goes extremely well and it's appreciated on our side.
Yeah. Thanks to you guys too.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Yeah, so just a couple other notes here, noteworthy items on the project review. Otherwise, Holland City Fiber, again, fiber hoods 1 through 6 now are open for fulfillment, and we are increasing that number every day that we have hooked up. We're up to over 1,600 customers now. It wasn't that long ago. We were just breaking that 1,000 customer threshold, so hitting that 200 to 220 per month. Sort of number here that we've got our installers, they're booked out through June and adding to the schedule as we move along, and so more work going on in Fiberhood 7 at this point, and getting that hopefully by the end of the fiscal year ready for fulfillment services there as well, and we'll just continue on down the through the fiber hoods. And so SCADA, OMS, again, SCADA's been working kind of already at this point with the integration of our GIS system is now complete. So we are working on getting the outage management system, the OMS is outage management, getting that to go live here. Our targeted date for that is July. Again, a lot more work than we had originally anticipated in some of that GIS upgrade and integration work, but now that we're through that, we're making strides now to get to the go live on the outage management, so we'll be happy to see that. Other projects are fairly early in the process here. 17th Street Lift Station, again, more of building work going on up front, and then later on this summer, early fall, we'll actually get into mechanicals and the controls for 17th Street Lift Station later on. Southwest Heights, big project for us. This is that second phase of work over there by 28th and Wildwood area, and you can see that construction is underway. Last month we talked about it getting started in April here, so we're on pace here at this point, trying to get completion of the first of 4 phases of work here done by mid-June, and so a lot of effort will be going on over the remainder of this year in that neighborhood, and that's continuing that work from the previous couple of years ago that we had first phase done. Unit major inspections pretty early again in the process here. Not a lot to talk about there. Neither. Also, the water treatment plant industrial dehumidifier also is pretty early. Chemical storage. Heard a little bit about that tonight with the increased contract contingency for Brian Newhoff for that work. And again, things are going to really kind of get going in earnest here in July for that. Raw pumps getting set up for the demolition and removal of the existing pumps by creating a bypass system. So Allied getting that work underway here so they can get that done. Obviously, things need to keep flowing, so as we move those pumps out, got to have other ways of getting that into the headworks. And so that was the first step in the process here. Digester, we've talked about how we're devising the plan for the ATP system. That's the, tell me the A again, Joel. What is it? Amoxic. Anoxic thermophilic. And then what's the P? Is that the philic? Pre-treatment? All right, so thank you. Anoxic thermophilic pre-treatment system. It's everything, you heat it up long enough before it goes into the digester. So that is part of that system we were talking about with the throughput needing to be there. And so, again, CB&I is working on that plan with us at this point. Otherwise, punch list items continue for the anaerobic digester. Good news, after many months, the switchgear, that second switchgear finally arrived here earlier this month. And so Parkway and our staff have been meeting and are getting ready to meet rather on the 16th to go over the schedule for the construction activities there to get that new motor control center and electrical switchgear in place there. So the disinfection project again is again fairly early in the process. We're getting ready to get going on that work, bid work here late this year. Again, we have the identified vendor, that Trojan system for the UV, but now we're working on getting the actual bids going out here later next month. Those are the highlights on the major project summary at this point.
Any questions from the board?
Dave, just a general question, the savings or the tax incentive that we had for the digester, is that actually in?
It's been filed. It's been sent in. I think if Chuck were here, he could probably give some feedback, and maybe some others have. We heard from another firm that filed some, and the timeline was, can't remember exactly what that was now, but
Granville did one, it was 4 months.
4 months. Yeah.
So we submit, they review.
Yeah.
And then potentially you're granted or?
Not potentially. It's like it's a tax return. It's basically you get the money. Now it's subject to audits, just like a tax return would be. But that's why we had the assistance from Raymond. As our auditors, but they were doing it from a different service perspective. But they were providing us with the evaluation of all of our documentation and assisting us with the actual filing. And so if that holds, we'd be somewhere around June, I guess, would be the time frame.
Yeah, I think it was filed around middle of February.
Right.
I mean, we have heard some other things as well. I mentioned Granville. There was another one we had heard about recently here that actually, I think they went longer. There was some follow-up, and it turns out that everything had been approved, but they IRS forgot to release the funds. So it was, once they followed up, it ended up getting released. So hopefully, as Dave said, hopefully around June, July, we'll get some resolution on that and get the payment.
But it's different from like a grant, because a grant, you're always wondering, am I going to be awarded this grant? Here, it's by statute, it's authorized payment that we're to receive, essentially. So, yeah.
And you've mapped out how that's gonna come back into the system?
Yeah, it's going to come into the Equipment Replacement Fund, which is a capital fund set up to deal with plant-specific capital work. And again, I'm going to say it's already spent, but a good amount of it's already spent, because we have the disinfection system is the funds that we're getting from this reimbursement, essentially, this direct payment system, is going to go into funding the disinfection project. Yeah.
Super, it's good to know.
Yep.
We good with the projects? Move on to our regular agenda item.
All right, regular agenda item tonight really is, although there are 2 recommendations embedded within the singular narrative that's here, Ted's going to come up and talk through the recommendation for water meter and the telemetry units. This was a fairly major project that was identified underneath the bond issue for water as well. As Ted will talk about, it's not just water that pays for this, but again, the bond that water issued will take care of water's portion of it in addition to the chemical storage and the slip lining project across the lake. Those are the three main projects that the bond was for. But Ted, I'll turn it over to you.
Stole my introduction.
I did? Well, what else can I say about Ted?
So, as Dave just talked about, you've seen this in the budget for this year as well as next year. This is a replacement of about half of our water meters, about 9,000. It's in the budget of both the water and wastewater utilities because we use the water usage to bill wastewater for half the year. And then we use what you used in the non-irrigation system for residential to bill you the rest of the year in the summer. So that's split up. Just the bond was for the water portion. The wastewater portion, we're good with the cash in that department. So last year there was a tactical action to look at this project to decide, should we continue with the meters we have? What other options are there? And there are a lot of cool options out there, but because we're only replacing half of our water meters, there was a goal of not to have two different systems to deal with. So the recommendation is to go with Neptune meters, which we already have and just installed in Park Township, about 4,000 of those. And then a number of onesie twosies also in some of the older areas as some of our meters have failed. As far as sweating the asset, we've gotten about 20 years out of the current meters for most of those that are out there. So there's also a request for the meter transmitting units or the radios for the AMI system. There's going to be an upgrade of the Aclara system. Peter was actually at the Aclara conference last week. He's not here because he caught something there and brought it home with him. So he's out today sick. But so that's what those radio transmitters are for the Aclara units. There is a potential that some of the other meters that have the smart meters, we could install those sporadically in the future throughout our system to get other information like water pressure from some of those, where we want to look at water pressure in the system and actually log it. So that's kind of a future thing that Aclara might be working with some of those folks on, so we can actually do that upgrade without changing our AMI system. So pretty straightforward. There's a PO with Ferguson on the water meters, the Neptune water meters, and then a PO with Aclara for the MTUs of the radios. Any questions?
Questions from the board? Here's pretty clear.
All right.
So again, the recommendation is stated up there. It's fairly lengthy. I can read it, but otherwise, if we need a.
We can have a motion.
Motion to approve the recommendation as stated for the water meter and radio replacement purchase order.
Seconded.
It's a motion by Maloof, second by Lilly. Any further discussion?
Do you get some extra ones? I mean, do we have inventory, or are they readily available so that you?
Yeah, this isn't a regular inventory item. It's just such a large purchase that we don't normally do. That's why it's here for approval. Yep.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes.
Thanks, Ted.
All right.
All right, on to other business, and for the regular meeting, there is no other business that we have, so I can go into communications from the general manager. Just a couple things here. One of them is real short, and the other one maybe just a little bit longer on that. The first one is that our next meeting, regular meeting, will be June 9. That meeting actually is coincident with the APPA National Conference, and I'll be attending that. So Ted is going to sit in for me in my role here for you on June 9. So that'll be something to look forward to. And then I look forward to it. Anyway, and then the other item, I'm going to hand these out, and I apologize. I'm going to leave one with me so I can at least talk intelligently about it. But if you can maybe at the end here, Keith and Kyle can share one. everybody else take one, and then I'll give Keith mine at the end. The Michigan Public Power Association, actually, I should say Michigan Municipal Electric Association, the trade association, which has 40 municipal members throughout the state, recently conducted a value of public power, an impact report that I want to share with you. A couple of you attended the MPPA stakeholder event, and there were some documents that were on tables there at that event that we chatted about briefly. But it's really no small value here that public power really brings to its customers. And it does it in a lot of ways, but primarily this report is evaluating the impact of reliability as well as the rate competitiveness that we bring. And those two components among the 40 municipal members in the state of Michigan actually saved over $400 million in 1 year, last year, with our, to our communities, to our customers as a whole. And I just wanted to take a moment, especially since we're on camera right now and those that might be watching at home, just explain a little bit about why that is. So these reports we're going to have available, some of these here at our BPW offices, but we're also going to make this something that we're posting about on our social media and putting out on our webpage as well. But it really breaks down again to two items, reliability and cost of the rates, the actual rate competitiveness. And the reliability is highlighted kind of in the center of this. If you open up to where the staples are coming through, you can actually see the reliability difference between public power and investor-owned utilities represented on the right-hand side of these bar graphs here. And there's a couple of ways that you can look at the outage duration. We refer to it a lot on our key performance indicators as SAIDI, which is the System Average Interruption Duration Index. What it really means is the average amount of time that any customer in our system is without power during a year. What does that really add up to? And for municipals, that's 111 minutes per year, including major events. So when you think about that ice storm that happened up north, that's really called a major event because it's not a normal situation. So if you have something that is really kind of outside of the normal distribution of outages, you can exclude those in some of your statistics just to get an idea of, on a more ongoing basis, what's the performance and reliability to be expected over time. So with major events, though, it's 111 minutes. If you exclude those major events, it's all the way down to 41 minutes. You compare that with investor-owned utilities. With major events, it's almost 800 minutes. And excluding the major events, it's down to about 175, just under 175 minutes. So how do you correlate that to a value? And we didn't come up with these numbers ourselves. Matter of fact, it's interesting because what we used was a report that was done and a model that was created at Berkeley, University of Berkeley. And that was actually created at the request of the investor-owned utilities, including DTE primarily, who wanted something that they could go to the commission and say, we can improve reliability this much if we invest. So we wanted to create something that gave a dollar value quantification to that. And so what we were able to do is say, hey, cool, you created a model. We can actually use that model to show that right now, when you look at the reliability differences, this is the impact that it has on our businesses and residents from a dollar value perspective. So when you take that amount right there, out of the $400 million, that's about $342 million of impact on an annual basis. And if you look at a business that doesn't lose product, or customers that aren't otherwise interrupted in their daily lives, there's a real dollar value to that. Absolutely. And so this is something that we wanted to highlight. And then the rates is the next page. And the rates there is the other $60 million. So again, the value of public power being not-for-profit, every dollar that you spend goes back into the service that's being provided. On average, our savings in 2022 and 2023 respectively was like $316 in 2022, $272 in 2023. Now this is among all the municipals. Holland, as you know, has some of the lowest rates in the Lower Peninsula among municipals, co-ops, and investor-owned utilities. So our number compared to the investor-owned utilities is actually closer to $500. So these numbers that are in here, again, are representative of the average of that group. And also, we recently received both the RP3 Diamond Award as well as the Excellence in Reliability Award from APPA because our reliability numbers are really good. So we are actually asking the company that did this for MMEA, which is our rate firm, actually UFS, Utility Financial Solutions, to give us some Holland-specific information that we can pair with this because we believe that our performance actually will be the better end of it's good among all the municipals, but I think ours will be on the better end of the municipal comparisons. So there's a lot of other ways, obviously, that we positively impact our community through the service that we provide, but these are the ones that you can actually like stack up against the investor-owned utility and say, okay, from a reliability and rates perspective, how does it compare and what's the financial impact of it? So this is for you. We want you to take it with you and share it, but we'll also be sharing it electronically through our social media and our other ways that we're going to be doing that. We'll have our Holland-specific information that we can bring back to you when we get that back from UFS as well. So want to make sure you had that today.
Excellent.
Thanks, Dave.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Dave, on the reliability side, I start thinking in what makes that difference, and from a standpoint of responsiveness, it's in some cases distance of what you
Sure
have, and I think also locality. I mean, we are here.
Yep.
It doesn't take 2 days to get a team up and get you someplace. Is there anything else that stands out?
Well, I think like you said, I mean, and I think what you're saying there's embedded in that is prioritization, right? I mean, when you look at outage restoration, you think about the customers that are impacted, and are there critical facilities like hospitals or public safety and things like that involved? But beyond that, utilities generally prioritize based upon the ability to create the biggest impact in restoration for the work that is being done. And then eventually you get down to the service connections that are impacted at 1 or 2 customers at a time. When you do it on a statewide basis, there's just a chance that your community, your city, if it's served by Consumers Energy or DTE, may not be the priority because of the fact that you can get so much more on, so many more are out in a wider area. I mean, there are vegetation differences as well. If you look at, our undergrounding, our tree trimming approach, and the ability to keep that on a 3-year cycle, I think there are other advantages that we're creating there. But priority is a big one for us, and having the ability to say, we're only going to be responding unless there's a mutual aid event after we've dealt with our issues. We're going to be responding to our customers' needs all the way down to a full restoration, before we really start losing resources to other areas. And so I think that ability to create priority within your community has a tangible benefit to the businesses and residents that are served in this community.
I think that's part of what could be added to this for the general story in the social media.
Thanks.
Really good.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so that was it for my comments tonight. Only other thing I was hoping, just to inform you, if you get into your communications, PJ, is that I think the mayor's very close to sending something out for the strategic development team work, and getting close to having a full slate of 8 members again, 2 from the BPW board. PJ and Tim did that last time, so I guess to a certain extent I'm turning over to you if there's a discussion tonight. But hopefully soon, if not tonight, we can get something to the mayor that we can get out. And I think we're looking at starting actual work in June, possibly the 3rd Monday of each month, and working through a cadence over about a 6-month period of time. And hopefully we'll be able to get everything wrapped up in that 6-month period of time.
Might
So-
be helpful, Dave, even if it's you and I or with Keith or probably not the mayor, but to get maybe a more specific handle on what this entails.
Yeah.
So we could communicate accurately to everybody. It may be different from the last effort.
I think it'll be
don't know that.
significantly different, because I think we'll have it looks like we're gonna have a pretty good continuation of the members that were on the SCT last time, really, except for the two members that will be changing, because Tim's retirement from the BPW board, or term expiration from the BPW
Yeah.
board, and also Nikki Aaronsworth's not being on council anymore. Otherwise, the other 6 members will be the same, it looks like, and that's good news. And so I think the other thing is, the targets that were created last time were 2030 targets. So, doesn't mean that we have to keep them all the same, but it also means that we're not at a point where we still don't have targets that are out there in the future that we can work from. So it really involves, and Keith and I spent some time mapping out with the mayor a little bit of an expectation of what actually happens in these 6 months. And probably the first couple months are a little bit of a review, but then you're really kind of getting into the meat of it by each of those 5 levers, as if you recall, electric portfolio, building energy consumption, transportation, education, and then offsets. Really kind of getting into more of an exploration of the targets that were created last time and whether anything needs to change. So it's about, we really think this is 6 meetings. 6 meetings that start at like 4 o'clock on a Monday. We haven't nailed down the time on an afternoon, but a Monday afternoon.
What we're thinking, yeah.
Yeah, and then we have about an hour to hour and a half meeting each time, and hopefully a lot of staff work in between, but can keep that process moving along for the 6 months.
That's helpful. So I'll be reapproaching each one of our board members just to have a discussion individually and
Yeah.
solicit interest, and then we'll,
Yeah, and I think if we
Should be
can
in
do that
good
here
position,
soon,
yeah.
then we can get something to the mayor, and knowing even, I don't think it slows the mayor down on getting the other email invitations out or the other letter
I think we'll
invitations out.
continue to pursue, and then
Yeah.
we'll just.
We'll
shoot for
fill
the
in that
third
last,
Monday in
yeah.
June starting date.
Yeah, that's kind of our
Third
plan
Monday
right
in
now,
June.
third
Okay.
Monday in June, which I believe is the 16th, actually. So it'd be the
Okay.
Monday following our meeting on the 9th would be the first meeting.
thanks, Dave.
Yeah, thank you. That's all I have, so.
Any communications from this board? Could we have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Motion to adjourn?
Support. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? This meeting's adjourned. And it is 4:43.
Yeah, perfect. And then, just